Welcome to Coffee and Change. I'm Bill Kirst. As a business professional, a U.S. veteran, a lifelong learner, and an active listener, I help others navigate, understand, and adapt to our ever changing workplace and world. As a third culture kid, I call many places home. Presently, Seattle is where I explore my creativity through the power of words and images. In this podcast, we journey with our guests, gaining knowledge and inspiration from their stories. There's a film that my guest, Adrian Nuno, and I both saw for the first time on a big screen as kids. Same film, different theaters, different states. E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Neither of us knew it then, but that movie quietly did something to us. It planted somewhere deep in our chests the idea that a story told with honesty and heart could make a complete stranger feel less alone in the world. That hope was never naive. That connection was never accidental. It was, in fact, the whole point. We're living through a moment that is testing that belief. And I think the people best equipped to help us find our way back to humanity are the ones who never stopped making things. Filmmakers, storytellers, artists, the ones who refuse to look away. Adrian Nuno is one of those people. I'm so glad you're here for this episode. Hey, good morning, Adrian. Welcome to the Coffee and Change podcast.
Good
Appreciate you
morning.
being here. I'm
Yes.
super excited for this conversation. Tell us where you're joining us from today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm here today from the lovely city of Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, and how cold is it there right now? Because it's been pretty brutal these past couple of weeks for
Yeah.
you.
I mean, today by comparison is a lot better than how it's been in the previous weeks. I think today the high is going to be like 50 degrees.
Oh,
Uh,
that's balmy.
that is lovely for my Midwest standards. That is incredible, and so I'm very very happy with what we're having today. And like even like as I speak, it's sunny and clear skies outside. So I'm just like, this is beautiful.
That's great to hear. A good 50 to 60 degree day, blue sky in Chicago. Like that's it's hard to beat those days.
Right.
So I'm glad that you guys are having the much needed thaw. I've had friends and family in that area who've just been really, really miserable and how cold it's been and the snow and then the ice and then more snow. So hopefully you get
Yeah.
a good walk out there today.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you joining and I'm really excited to have this conversation for a couple reasons. One is I've been listening to a lot of your interviews, a lot of the work you do with your brother, your twin brother, some of the podcasts that you've been on. And there's a couple tenets that really sort of stood out to me, which made me very excited to have this conversation. That is sort of like the power of content, creativity, community, and connection. And that's sort of woven through all the things that you do. And I think it's really fascinating how you operate almost in two worlds, very similar to me in the sense that we have our corporate side, which certainly, we're proud of our gifts and our skills there. But we also have these passions that light us up that we pursue and really, in a positive way, alter the pathways that we've taken in life. So I'd love for you just to start off a little bit telling folks about a little bit about you, how you might describe yourself in both worlds. And then we'll just unpack it from there.
Yeah. Sounds great, Bill. Yeah, I mean, a little bit about me, like, I am a creative at heart, both in the corporate world as a senior video editor at Motorola Solutions, but then also on the side, my twin brother and I, we have our own production company called Luminoso Studios, where we do everything from social media content to short films to YouTube videos, you name it. And this all really started back when my twin and I were both kids, and we saw our first film at a drive-in movie theater out in McHenry, Illinois. The film was E.T., the Extra-Terrestrial.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Speaking of my heart here,
Yeah, right.
Adrian.
And I remember just seeing that ending that just broke me as a kid, but also was so magical and so emotional and just so well done. And for that brief period of time, I was just transported, and when I found out that people actually made that experience that I watched, I was just like, "Well, how can I do that? How can I be a part of that? How can I make that experience for somebody else?" And then we took our dad's, old camcorder and just started making little movies, at home, little movies that, will hopefully never see the light of day, uh, but nonetheless, it was experience. It was getting out there and just seeing what it was like to script something and film something and edit something and even act in something, and then the more went even into middle school and high school, we still kept at it, and we were very fortunate to have a small community of folks in our drama department at high school who were willing to be actors and crew or catering or give their houses to us so we could film in them. And it became a little thing where every year, starting I think it was in sophomore year of high school, we would make a movie every single summer, um, and we're grateful to that community that really believed in us and backed us and really just helped us bring these projects to life. Many of those collaborators I still work with today. And so we have a very great working relationship going back 10 plus years. And then even going into college, when Andrew and I went to community college first, and then we went to DePaul University for 2 years after getting our associates, we were like grateful that this curiosity and creativity bug had not left us still, and we were just like, let's keep at it, let's see where it takes us. And um, then we started going into bigger budgets. We started having bigger projects, and it just kind of kept, going from there. Where every 1 to 2 years we kept making movies, and we're grateful to have since done a found footage feature film. We have done a whole season of a web series, and we most recently completed a $20,000 short film about work life balance, about queer love, and about this very fine line that, you know, ambitious folks often toe between their aspirations, their hopes, their dreams, and then the people in their life, the relationships in their lives that I would argue make life worth living for. And we've gotten to five festivals so far with that project. And I was recently actually in Austin about a weekend ago to attend a festival out there that Final Frame was showing at. And like it never fails to like get my heart racing when the lights go down and our film comes up. But then I'm like not looking at the screen. I'm looking at the audience when the film is watching because I'm just like, I've edited this thing. I know it back to front. I want to see how y'all are reacting. And I loved and was grateful for seeing the reaction of like this one guy. It's like big burly Texan to our left that like towards the end I could just see him going like,
Oh,
yeah, and I was just like, "Yes." And so for me is the best thing that I can ever experience is giving someone the same reaction that I had when I saw my first movie as a kid and getting to just make them feel something, making them start a conversation, experience something that takes them out of the world they live in for just a moment and be transported to something. And that's really what has pushed me time and time again to, amidst all the craziness that filmmaking can provide, uh, to make me think like, yeah, this is worth it because of providing that for somebody. And I just love that, and that love and that passion has pushed me through ever since for 15 years now, maybe going on 16, providing this sort of experience for people wherever they see it.
It's such a visceral core memory that you just shared around seeing that audience member, that big burly Texan, who we might necessarily identify as kind of stoic, not emotional, right?
Yeah,
Like we might couch or mislabel that person as of lacking emotion. But here, because again, what do we do as humans? We judge a book by its cover. But here is your story that you put to film that has moved this man to tears. That has to be an amazing feeling. I mean, there's probably fewer feelings. I imagine some singers who are on stage and maybe have their words sung back to them. It's pretty close feeling.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in that moment, I'd be curious, like, did you did you wanna freeze frame that moment for yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I just wanted to, like, snap a photo of it, frame it on my wall, like,
Mhm.
it's those moments that just really just kind of like warm a creative's heart, where you just
Yeah.
see that something you made has such a profound impact on somebody. And I think the first time I ever experienced something like that was when my twin and I we made a slam poetry video called "All Too Soon," and it's up on YouTube right now. And this was in response to a high schooler in our community back in Crystal Lake, Illinois, that had unfortunately taken their own life as a result of a lot of cyberbullying online. And I remember my twin, especially after hearing that happened. And this is a student who went to our alma mater, our high school, and we were just filled with so much anger over what had happened. And we know that always the best way for us to get that anger out, and it's very therapeutic as well, is making art, making something to really articulate all that we want to say. And Andrew just, in the matter of days, wrote this slam poem about, the next great artist, the next great doctor, the next great person that life thinks is, or I guess whose life is cut too short because um, they are just told time and time again that they think they're not good enough. And I remember we were able to show the film at a conference at our community college, and then we also showed it at a meeting with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I remember specifically that screening, in that there was one person that I was told never spoke at any of the other meetings, but because they saw this video, they opened up for the first time to the group. And I remember that experience making me think like, wow, it's really cool seeing that media can have this profound impact on somebody, to start conversations, to make them feel in a way that they can be more comfortable opening up about themselves. And that's when it was just like the catalyst of like, let's keep at it. Let's keep going with this because, first and foremost, you hope that you entertain somebody, that someone has a profound time or a good time watching whatever you make. But if it can ignite something in them, if it can make them provoke a conversation with people in their lives, like that is just like the cherry on top, especially in these times that we find ourselves in. Like, Andrew and I are drawn to projects that shine a light on underrepresented communities and topics, whether it's mental health, whether it's the LGBTQ community, whether it's the Latina community, you name it. That was the catalyst of really wanting to shine a light on those kinds of stories that we just need to see more of, and that there hasn't been enough of, but also maybe going about it in a way that maybe hasn't been explored yet. And one comment that I also got with our short final frame is that, you know, they love that we didn't make being gay all that they were. It was a part of them, but it didn't define them. And at the end of the day, that's not what the story is about. The story is about a couple, two people in love that are really at a very friction heavy point in their lives. They happen to be gay, but that's not all that it's about. And I really hope that, we can normalize that more and more, that, like, these are people who are in love what else does what else doesn't matter, who they love, you know? So, yeah,
Yeah, it's there's a couple things that kind of rise up in me as I was listening to you talk about the importance of art, um, in a way, and I think we can probably unpack this a little bit later in the discussion, but I feel like in a way, art and storytelling and filmmaking and conveying emotion um, through creativity is kind of the last bastion of where the human dynamic is has sanctity. And
yeah.
we're in this really hyper technological world. What we'll probably end up talking about AI at some point in this discussion, but I want to stay here for a while because my heart is feeling the the power. Like when you started off talking about ET, right? You as soon as you said that, I was transported back to the dime, the I think it was literally like a dime to go to this theater in Houston, Texas, where my eldest sibling took me and my younger siblings, um, and we went to go see ET, and I was transformed and transfixed, and there are certain scenes in that film to this day that sort of stuck with me, and I know you'll appreciate this as someone who, like, reveres that film so much. The scene where Elliot has, ET in the milk crate basket on the front of his bike, and all the other boys in the neighborhood and his older brother are trying to get away from essentially the as we thought, the government to sort of take ET away, and they're pedaling really, really fast, and then all of a sudden, they start to rise off the ground and fly. I mean, I still get chills thinking about it, and the little boy in me then came home and asked everyone he knew for a milk crate and tied it on the front of his BMX bike and pedaled and pedaled and pedaled and didn't care.
Yes.
And I can feel it like it was yesterday, Adrian.
Mhm.
Like there's magic in that.
100%, 100%, and, like, I feel it's not often that I have that same experience today, in a movie theater, Um, whether it's, you know and I can go into a very long rant about, like, the current state of the movie industry and, like, how it's radically different than the one that I fell in love with, but I still, every now and then see a movie that reminds me, like, of that experience, and I think the last film that gave me at least that level of experience was, in 2016 with, La La Land, um, like, especially, like, the epilogue, like, I was just taken off my feet. I was transported, and I just, like for me, like, I'm a very big empath, and so I feel very, very strongly, and for me, the biggest thing that a movie can do is just make me feel something, like, even if I don't exactly agree with the story or I feel like other things in the film could have been tweaked, like, if you can make me feel something, I will go with you anywhere. Like, and La La Land was just such a profound and incredible movie, um, that that just really made me feel that sort of nostalgic feeling that you're describing with you seeing E.T., and so, um I feel like the biggest thing for me when I see something is that I wanna feel like the person who made this thinks it's the best thing in the world, that I can feel like that love and that authenticity that went into a project. Even if I don't agree with, the movie in the end, like, I just wanna feel that sincerity, and then when I don't feel that, I'm just like, I just feel like so empty inside
Let down.
and let down, exactly, that's a better
Yeah.
way to phrase it, like, because I think especially as time has gone on, like, time all the more becomes such a precious commodity for us, becomes such a precious gift for us, and, like, to have the pleasure of taking someone and having some time with them for a bit, I don't, I don't take that lightly, and so I really want to make sure that like what we're putting out there is just the best thing I could have possibly made within a period of time. And Andrew and I say this all the time, like a movie is never done. It just has to be let go. you know? You do the best you can with the time that you have, and eventually you just have to let it out into the world. And I remember there have been many times at screenings with our short film where, like, I feel like someone's tapping me, and then it's Andrew, and he's just saying things as if we're back in the editing room, and I'm just like, "Andrew, it's over. Forget it. Yeah, let it go." Um, yeah, like, we'll laugh it off, and we'll shrug it off, and we'll move on, but, like, I think Andrew and I will never have a moment with a project where we'll be like, I finally cracked it. Like, we'll never get there, but we can get there as pretty close as one possibly can. And we also have two filmmaking friends of ours that like whenever we have a first draft of a project, we always send it to them. And there's one friend of them, shout out to Olivia, who just whether it's a script, whether it's an edit, they will just give us so much feedback and just tear the project to shreds. But I love that and I welcome that because I always say to people, if people don't give us feedback and aren't like hard with us now, the audience will be.
Right,
Right.
right,
So it's like I'd much rather hear that stuff now while we still have the chance to change it than when we're at a festival and we just see someone's reaction just be eh with a project. And I think director Christopher Nolan once said this. I think he said this recently that like, I would rather you passionately like my project or passionately dislike my project than to just have a reaction. Cause I feel like that is just like a dagger in my heart
yeah,
of like,
yeah,
I want to see you feel passionately about something, even if it's just you hate the movie. I mean, it's not preferable, but I can get on board with that. Like,
right.
so yeah, that's
'Cause,
where I stand with
it reminds me the importance of witnessing someone's craft, and that's a very deliberate word, craft, because I think what you are talking about is there's this beautiful expression that comes through human beings when they're crafting something that is, it sort of has their fingerprint on it. It has their soul print on it. And to witness that is amazing. And then to be part of almost the, like you said, the empath's tidal wave thereafter is really amazing. I also think this concept of letting something be in the world is really fascinating because I've never experienced it through filmmaking, but I have experienced it through publishing books. And at some point, I remember reading or hearing from an author, they said, it's no longer yours. Like you put it out in the world and it's got to find its way, right? Your words have to find their way to people's ears, eyes, hearts, bodies. Same thing with your films and your scripts and um, your shoots. It's got to find its way to those people.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking how freeing and terrifying that was all at once.
Yeah, it never goes away. Yeah, but, I mean, thank you for sharing that. That is so, so true, Once it's in the hands of an audience, like, it is not yours, whether it's
Mm,
someone reading something you made, someone seeing something you made, yeah, it's truly up for them to interpret, and, um with our latest short film, um, it was very interesting seeing the responses to the ending of the movie
mm.
because not to spoil anything, but like, um, I found out later that people could interpret the ending more than one way. And then I remember at one point someone asked me like, what's the true ending of the movie? And I kept saying like, I'm not going to tell you,
Yeah.
because I feel like if I tell you, it's just going to step on whatever you make of the ending. And I think
Hmm.
part of the magic is that you get to fill in the blank yourself of what
Yeah.
you think it is. And like, whatever thing you think it is, you're right. But I have my own ending in mind. I have my own ending that we had in the script and that we had in mind in the editing room. And that will be my ending, but I think the beauty of this now is that you can fill it in with whatever you want, you know? And I
Yeah.
think if I were to tell you what I thought, like, that takes away part of the magic.
Mhm.
And so going back to what you said about, like, when it's not yours anymore, it's the audience's or the reader, like, it truly becomes theirs and they can make with it what they will and they can interpret it however they want to. And I think I love projects that can make someone have a different opinion like that and make them, want to talk about it with somebody of like, what did you think of this?
Yeah.
What was your interpretation of that? Like, to me, that's what I love a lot about art.
Yeah, I think, I chose something pretty rebellious in my last publishing of this last book. There was a point in the book, almost towards the end, where I intentionally put in about 10 blank pages, and the page preceding the blank pages essentially said something along the lines of, "You have to write your own script at this point in life and the world." I mean, it was talking about AI, and it was talking about leadership, and so much of so much of this, we have no answer book for it, right? We don't even have the questions for it. And so as I guided people through it, I got them to a place where they probably were feeling like, okay, I'm starting to feel comfortable in the guidelines and the advice. And then I interrupted that and said, these next 10 pages are blank for a reason. I want you to write in them what your questions are, what your fears are, what your hopes are, what your dreams are. And it was intentional and rebellious, but also about accountability, right? Make this your own, you know? And I fear that so many people are kind of sleepwalking through life right now. And if things like art or print or film or music can sort of shake us out of that cage for a moment and
Mm,
remind us to like breathe, touch, laugh, cry. That's what's so beautiful about the work that you and your brother and others are doing. It came from a place of that 15-year-old Adrian who's now able to literally save other 15-year-olds out in the
mm.
world or 25-year-olds or 55-year-olds, right? There's no age limit to being touched. And I that just has to be a very powerful experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing those words, and thank you also for sharing what you wrote about or not included in the last 10 pages of your book. Like, I'm curious, have people told you the reactions of like, "Why is it empty?" Or like, "I don't get it." Like, I'm just curious for myself, like, what have they said?
Yeah. You know, it's been an interesting experience. There's only been 2 people that have reached out to me directly afterwards saying, "I noticed that there were blank pages in here. Was that intentional or was that a mistake?" Because they know I self-published, right? And, I mean, there's probably, I don't know, last time I checked, I don't know, several hundred, close to 1,000 copies of this have sold or whatever, and that's the other thing, it's just fascinating to see where it goes in the world. Um but not that many people have reached out, and one time somebody was actually standing with me after I'd done a book signing, and they were flipping through, just, flipping through as we do. It's the tactile sensation that we humans like to do. We like to smell a book, we like to flip the pages.
Yeah.
It reminds us again, we are alive, we were in this body for a reason, and they stumbled upon the blank pages, and they were like, I think my copy is I think I got a, like, debunked
A
copy."
bad
It's
copy.
like, "I got a bad copy of this edit." And I was like, "No,
Nope.
no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You've got the right one." And then I watched their eyes sort of open up even wider, like,
Yeah.
"What am I holding in my hands? This is not what I expected." And to your point around people saying, "Was it this ending or that ending?" I love the fact that we have the privilege in our life and in our world and with our gifts to be able to, for a moment, hold somebody at that precipice and in that tension to say, look, just on the other side of this tension is a spark, but it's your spark.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I also have to mention, like, you talking about, like, even, like, the smell of a new book, like, I remember as a kid, one of the things that I looked forward to was the Scholastic Book Fair.
Yes.
Yes, right. And I just loved, like, just getting a new book and just, like, smelling it and just, like, oh,
Yep,
the smell of a new adventure, the smell of, a new story I get to, like, tap into, and, like, that was one thing as a kid I looked forward to every single year, and you describing that just made me go back to that time in my life where I was just like, "Oh my gosh." We're
absolutely.
going way back.
Way back, we're going into core memories here. I
Right.
mean, E.T., cracking open the book,
Look, yeah.
I know you and your brother shared books a lot. I was listening to that
Yes.
episode because you're obviously identical twins and you
We
guys
are.
shared books. We did a lot of similar. I come from a big Irish Roman Catholic family, so I'm one of
Okay.
6 kids. I'm
Okay.
the oldest boy. I know you've got three boys in your family, right?
Yep.
Fernando, Andrew, and you? Is that
Yes,
did I have
yeah.
that right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good memory.
Um, yeah, it's like you come from a big family, you have the ability to sort of remember names and
Yeah,
faces, but
yeah,
family's important to you, and it's a big part of who you are as a storyteller, as a filmmaker,
yeah,
as an activist as well, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about that because I mean, there's obviously something so unique about having an identical twin, yes, and we can talk about that, but
yeah, yeah.
you also have an older brother who's played a pivotal role in your life. You've got a father and mother have played pivotal like, I
Yeah.
imagine you've got all sorts of, tios and tias and,
Yes.
cousins and, like,
Yes. Sobrinos, sobrinas, yeah.
yeah, like, just I'm very fortunate, um, yes, on the Irish side, but I also actually have a lot of, Mexican American uncles. In fact, my godfather is Mexican American, and so
Oh, wow.
we come from this big tribe where we call sort of the best of the best Irexicans because they're Irish Mexicans.
Yeah.
And boy, do they know how to throw a party and have weddings. And so I have this affinity and love for, my Latino uncles and godparents and things of that nature. And I just know how important family is. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about that because I do think it is a powerful thread for someone who's a storyteller, a filmmaker, and an empath.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, with my older brother, like, he was one of the biggest early supporters of my movies. Like, he starred in the first one we ever made. He starred in the first film we ever did with our high school crew. And ever since then, like, every project, every crowdfunding campaign, every premiere we've ever done, like, he's always been there and just such a champion of what we do. And I'm grateful for his, support and his involvement in our earlier projects. Um, but then even with my parents, I remember my mom, whether it was me coming out or it was me chasing the creative arts, she was always so supportive. And I remember even when I came out to my mom, like, I remember she just got so emotional and she hugged me and she said the words I didn't know I needed to hear at the time, but I'm so
Mm,
happy she said them, which was, "God made you who you are, and God doesn't make any mistakes,"
yeah,
And
yeah.
I just remember just thinking, like, how much I needed to hear those words and just was so thankful for her love and for her support. And with my dad, uh, it was a different story. He wasn't so warm and welcoming at first. Um, but I remember thinking to myself, like, I just need to show him love because I know, especially for how he grew up, this is new territory. And I
Right.
knew that was going to happen. And it was the big reason I was so hesitant to share that with him for a long, long time. And I knew from a young age
Mm,
that I was at the very least queer, and not straight. And I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic as well. And I
mhm.
did religious education. I was confirmed. I was an altar server. I was all these things. And I remember from a very young age, like, the repression starting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Of, like, not wanting to embrace that part of you that you're told time and time again is wrong. I remember going to confession so many times for even having so much as a gay thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and doing
Me
so
too.
many Hail Marys or the Lord's Prayer, and at one point, I think it was when I was 17 or 18, and my twin brother and I, we came out to each other and realizing, like, "Okay, it is okay to be this way. Okay, I'm not alone in this." And that's when I really started at least as far as Catholicism kind of just going away, because a lot of what was being told to me was to be ashamed of who I was. And my mom, I have to really give credit to her. She also really taught me to have a different relationship with God, and that I believe in a God that loves everyone and accepts everyone and embraces everyone. Um, I've met so many other LGBTQ plus folks who've had a similar relationship with God now that they are removed from Christianity or Catholicism in that way, that they grew up very hard to believe that being who they authentically were was wrong. And I also have to give credit to my dad. And I came out to him when I was 18, and then we came out fully to everyone else in our lives in like 2019 before the pandemic. And since then, I mean, he's gone to his first Pride parade. He's gone to meeting, our previous partners that were same sex, and um, just seeing how supportive he's been, really just gives hope for me that when I hear other people have similar stories of a parent or a sibling or a family member that's not as accepting at first, I always share my story because I'm just like, you know, you would be surprised what time can do for someone, but just give them love, give them patience because, you know, that's what they need right now. As hard as it might be to give it to them, that's what they need because, you know, who knows what they went through as a kid or growing up that this just needs some time for them to adjust and really learn what they have to learn so they can embrace and love you more.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting how similar our paths are, and also not surprising that our paths are very similar. I mean, you talk about, like, the altar server, the confession, the Latin mass, the incense, like, all that stuff is, like, right there, like, spot on, the confession, the whole 9. And, it's also really interesting, I came out to my family at age 30,
Mm,
and it was very similar, right? My mom was in a different place, in accepting than my dad was. It both took them kind of on their own timeline, but I think what you remind me of is that even though at the time it didn't sort of that conversation didn't finish the way I wanted it to, and I ultimately had to walk out that door and stand, as my authentic and in some ways brave self. I never gave up loving, and I never gave up wanting to understand. And now here I am almost 18 years later, and I'm rebuilding a relationship with my father.
mm,
And it's something I almost am surprised by, but in the most delightful way, because it's like we get to meet each other as not as roles, right? Not as necessarily father, son, son, father, but as humans,
yeah,
right? And what's the common shared experience of most humans? It's you want to be loved, you want to be seen, you want to be understood, and you want to be able to live out your dreams safely and securely. Like that's really what this all comes down to. And
yeah,
that never expires. I mean, my father's in his 80s, right? And he's doing all those things. And it's been really beautiful to experience that in a way because I didn't allow the atrophy. I didn't allow the despair to sort of take over my pathways and my narrative. Sure, there were lots of sleepless nights, as I can imagine you had as well, Adrian, right?
yeah, yeah,
Lots of
definitely,
sleepless nights,
definitely.
but I never gave up hope, and I think it's really important that people understand, and obviously you do through your story and your storytelling, that you can have heartbreak and you can have hope. Like, both can coexist. In fact, I think we're in this place right now as a nation and as a world where there is so much of both, right?
Yeah.
Every single post you see out there, on one side it's heartbreak, on the other side it's hope. And it's our choice as artists, right? As creatives, as storytellers, to help people find their way to both ends of that, right? For whatever reason they need to. So I love that so much of this has informed your own story and the stories you tell for other people. And I also love the fact that you said in Final Frame, it's not a singularity about the queerness or the identity. There's lots of parts of who we are, right? There's so much complexity and joy that is abound in who we are, the things we care about. Yes, this is one aspect of who we are, but it is not all of who we are. And so I think
Yeah.
we have to keep reminding people of the multiplicity that is the human dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going back to what you said a little back, about how, it is a very interesting time we find ourselves in, whether it's coming off the heels of a once in a century global pandemic, or a very strong political time where, it's been more challenging than ever before. And I feel whether it's a survival tactic or something else, people just find themselves being very numb to a lot of
Mm,
things going on. Um, and I feel like one of the best things that we can do for us right now is just really tap into the joy in our lives. And I remember at first, having a conversation with someone about this last year about like, do do I have permission to feel joy?
yeah,
Does it feel right to feel joy in this moment where there are so many things that are just not going well in the world? And I was brought back to a quote that someone else had told me about, this mantra during the AIDS crisis of like, they would bury their friends in the morning, protest in the
yeah,
afternoon, and dance all night. And the
yeah.
more I heard about that, the more I'm just like, that absolutely makes sense because how can you expect to fill other people's cups when you can't even fill your own, you know?
Hmm.
And in these times, having the moments of joy and community and being with other people is what will give you the power and the strength to keep up the fight, to keep being there for other people. And so I always tell people, like, by all means, please, whatever gives you joy, whatever gives you permission to feel something, tap into that, lean into that, because that is what's gonna get you through the hard times, and more importantly, it's what's gonna make you feel alive, you
Yeah,
know? And
yeah,
that's something that I am learning myself to tap into more because I will also be honest, for the longest time in my life, I have just been a guy that's just go, 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 get stuff done, get stuff done, get stuff done. And it wasn't until COVID that I actually had a chance to really take a step back and really learn of like, is this the right way I should be going? Is this, you know, should I be doing something different? And uh I remember, like, after making our web series, that came out in 2021, Andrew and I actually took 2 years of a break from filmmaking,
mm,
and we were terrified about taking that break because we know a lot of people who took the break and never came back to
yeah.
filmmaking, and we were so scared that that would be us, but on the contrary, we found so much inspiration taking that time off and being more present with people that we didn't have as much time to be with and travel and all these things. And it was actually that hiatus from filmmaking that led to the inspiration to make Final Frame
See,
because, yeah, exactly. Yeah, much clearer now, Bill, but not so much as clear back then.
yeah.
But yeah, so many
Mhm.
beautiful things happen when you give yourself permission to rest and to just lean into living life. And like every year since, I don't do resolutions for New Year's. I choose a mantra or a word to define what the year should be for me. And
And
this
this year it's alive.
it's alive. Yep. that's
Yeah.
the word I
I
chose.
I
Yeah.
love that I love that you chose that word. I remember watching that video as part of your YouTube channel, and, the way in which people can do things on YouTube, to your point, we either get very numb to it or there's a tingling that happens, a sensation that happens. And I think the same thing occurs in audio as well. There's some science behind that, right? When you get the goosebumps and the hair stands up on your arm and your neck. And I remember the point when you were just about to say the word and it started to paint across the screen. And what's really fascinating is sometimes I think, this is how the human mind works. We're essentially a pattern seeking device. And so what we do is we fill in the blanks for things where we think there might be traces or shadows or it's going to be. And my mind did that before it actually displayed on the screen. And I got goosebumps in that moment because I was like, that's exactly where I would have gone, which again is a beautiful
Mm,
expression of filmmaking and storytelling in short pieces. Um, and I also think the importance of especially what's happening right now, right, where people are being suffocated, people are being silenced, people are being detained,
yeah,
right? People are in fear. And to your point, one of the most important ways to, again, counter some of this in our own ways is to feel alive.
yeah,
Because if we feel alive, then we remember what's worth protecting and what's worth defending, right? I also really appreciate that you talked about that sort of urgency and that go 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 that you've always known. There's a phrase I remember reading in a book years ago, and the phrase was essentially talking about what it means to grow up as as a young man in a straight world but identifying as gay or trying to figure that out.
yeah,
And the phrase was the best little boy in the world, meaning the way that we countered um, was that we took on everything and did everything exceptionally and just did more and more and more so
right,
that people might love us for that in the event that they would reject us for the other part of us.
right,
And that still rings true in the way that we perform in the world. And it takes a moment where you say, I'm going to stop for a year or two
yeah,
to even allow your body to catch up to all the things that your heart and your mind have been juggling
yeah,
for so long for survival. And I think it's beautiful that you and your brother gave yourself the space to be like, hang on a second, like, I want to be in this body. And if this body is meant to be storytelling and editing and producing and directing, it will find its way back to that.
yeah.
And that's where Final Frame was born from. I mean, you guys wouldn't have Final Frame if you had just
No.
headstrong proceeded, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%, and so I'm very grateful for that time that we took for ourselves. Cause like you said, it led to a lot more inspiration, it led to a lot more creativity coming back and thinking about how we can do things differently, in which we work smarter, not harder, and really just, tap into that same curiosity and creativity, that interest that brought us to filmmaking as kids, and so yeah, I 100% agree with everything that you just said, and yeah, like it's also very interesting finding ourselves at a time where, especially for creatives, we also have artificial intelligence to
Yeah.
now come into the ring.
To numb everything out.
To numb everything out, but also to figure out and have to decipher for ourselves what is legit and what is
Yes.
fake, you know?
Yep.
There have been so many videos I've seen of things that look so real, I could swear it actually happened, but it's not, and, I have a friend who's, an illustrator, and I remember one of the first things I saw with generative AI was illustrations, and
Yeah.
just seeing, like, all the life from her face go away, when they saw that, like, all the work that they put into drawing something and coloring something and making something what it is can now just be typed in a prompt and just like that, They don't
Yeah.
get commission for their work, they don't get paid for it, it's just someone can take their style and make it their own in seconds, and, yeah, like and, it saddens me because I also know at the same time that, like, no matter what we think, it's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, it's being invested in more and more and more. I think I saw a quote somewhere that, like, up to possibly $2 trillion is expected to be invested in AI this year, and so, it's a very interesting line we find ourselves in, Bill, where it's just like, you know, despite how we feel about it, we know it's not going anywhere. We have to figure out a way to now live in a world where it's just being relied on more heavily and more heavily, more heavily, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude,
Mhm.
Gemini, you name it.
Mhm.
Um, it's especially as a creative, just seeing what it's become. Um, it's all the more reason why I crave authenticity and
Yeah.
groundedness and content that I feel like AI could never replicate.
It
Uh,
won't.
yeah, right? Like, I'm curious if it will get to a point where it could possibly do that, that it might do that, but at least as long as it doesn't do it anytime soon, that works for me.
Yeah, I think it's where it's such an interesting, um, demarcation line, if you will, and I agree with you. The the tr I don't wanna say true artists, but I'm just gonna say the artists who are true to themselves
Hmm,
are going to find ways, and I've written about this a little bit, to do what I call a reverse renaissance, where it's
hmm,
almost like we're going back to this place where forget the markings and the metadata that says something is AI generated. I'm gonna assume almost everything is. I want the markings and the metadata that say this was handcrafted. That's what I'm looking for.
yeah,
Like, that's the stamp I wanna see, and I think we're gonna find this almost emerging artisan barter economy
yeah,
where we're gonna say things like, "You know what? I want Adrian and Andrew."
yeah,
Why? Because I can look them in the eye, I can put my hand on their shoulder, I can say thank you, I can take a walk with it. I want something that I know they've infused their essence into,
yeah,
and I think it's gonna be almost a rebellion of sorts, and in little ways, I think we're doing it, right? The imperfections. I didn't know until somebody pointed it out to me that there was a typo on page 46 in my book. You know
mm,
what? I left it in. I didn't
mm,
care. I could have gone back and edited the script and re-uploaded it. I left it in. Why? Proof of life.
yep,
Proof that a human wrote it, right? So
yeah,
I think about all the smudges and the blurrings and the things that are gonna say, "Hey, this was really made by humans who are imperfect, but striving for something greater," right? We're not striving for perfection. I'm striving for connection.
yeah,
And that's what this whole thing has been about for me for over almost 10 years of doing this, right? Doing this platform. Um, and it also makes me think of, as a little bit of a segue, and I want to really give a shout out to your dad. What's your dad's name, by the way? Is your dad still with you?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
fortunately, he is, but
Okay.
my dad's name is, Rafael.
Rafael. Okay.
Yeah,
So I want to say to Rafael, thank you,
mm,
because it gives me so much hope and it gives so many other people hope that a dad, right, can go to a pride parade. And I think about, I mean, you've been there too. You
yeah,
know, having gone through the pride parade, you know when you see the dad that has the shirt that says free dad hugs,
yeah, yeah,
I lose it every time.
yeah,
Every time.
yeah,
I'm just a ball of tears
oh,
for for many moments. And I love the fact that dads do that. I remember being in Ireland.
mm,
Um, it was the pride right after marriage equality was voted in Ireland, a very Catholic country, right?
yeah,
Probably one of the most Catholic
in
countries
the world, yeah,
in the world, and they voted
yeah,
for gay marriage. And I remember being out in a bar and we were celebrating, and the bar actually had more heterosexual parents in the bar than there were gay attendees in the bar.
wow,
And I remember thinking, "This is like my world is turned upside down, inside out. I'm trying to make sense of this." And I would talk to each one of them, and they said, "How could we not be here? Like, this is about love."
Mm,
And the fact that we were told for so long not to love, um, our children and our offspring for these reasons, it never felt right. It always felt a little bit of a discord, and now we're making it right. So they were literally in the bar celebrating, and I can't tell
wow.
you, like, how much joy that brought me to see these parents and these dads, like, cheering people on, and I thought, "There's hope in the world." Right? Little by little, there's hope in the world. So I know there's plenty of corners of darkness that we're facing, but
Yeah.
from me to you to your dad, thank you. Literally,
Mm,
thank you. Like,
thank
it
you.
means the world to me to hear that he went to a pride parade, and
Yeah.
there's always hope. There's always hope.
Yeah, exactly. And especially in times that can be dark, hope is the one thing that can get you through them. You have to have hope that things can get better. You have to have hope that things will improve, um, because that is the one thing that, despite everything else bad that's happening around you, that's the one glimmer of something better, a better tomorrow that can get you through
Yeah,
all of that. And wherever you can find that hope, whether it's books, whether it's movies, whether it's TV, whether it's poetry, whether it's music, whether it's community, like, tap into that, find that, hold on to it, especially people that are authentic when they're around you, people that you feel that you're getting as much love as you give to them. Like, hold on to that tightly, because now more than ever, we need that in our lives. And so, yeah, we'll get through. It's not a matter of if, it's we will,
we will.
we'll get through it. But for now, it's just really, really tap into those things more.
Yeah, beautifully said. And that's kind of a great place for us to sort of wrap. But before we do that, I would love for you to share where people can learn about your YouTube channel, your
Yeah.
films, the work you and your brother do. There's so many like avenues and containers of joy that are out there that I really enjoyed surfing and getting to know a little bit about you. So feel free to tell folks where they can learn about you, your portfolio, and follow along.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So folks can follow me either on my YouTube channel. It's called the Nuno Twins, Nuno, and that's where we have updates about projects that we're doing. Also, we have our podcast Twin Spin that we have on there, which is getting ready to film its third season coming up. Lots of exciting
Congratulations.
guests. Thank you that we have coming up for this podcast that I wish I could share, but I can't share just quite yet. But y'all will see it in due time. I also have my own personal YouTube channel, which is literally just my name, Adrian Nuno, Nuno. And it's more of like a diary for me to really just have a separate creative outlet that's not tied to filmmaking or our production company. It's just for me. And folks can check out that channel as well. I try to post at least once every month there. And then also you can follow me on Instagram at Adrian the Nuno Twin. And I also post a lot about like projects I'm doing, stuff from my life, and all that stuff there as well. So that's where folks can find me.
Thank you, and I will say I love the sort of once a month diary entries on your YouTube.
Oh, thank
The
you.
piece I loved about it, and I really want people to hear this for what it is. There was no urgency, and there was no sense of like, "Oh my gosh, this person has to have a million clips, a million shorts, a million." Like, it was very easy for me to go to that account and be like, "Oh, here's the March update. Oh, here's the like, I wasn't overwhelmed, I wasn't confused, I didn't because sometimes you go to YouTube on your phone at least, and it's like, it automatically kinda wants you to go to the shorts, and then you're like, "Wait, where's the actual videos? I can't find it. None of them are in order
Yep.
by chronological. I'm very confused." Like, it's like you're dropped into, like, a fun house and of all these mirrors, and you're trying to figure it out. That was not the experience with your account
Mm.
at all. So kudos
Oh,
to you.
thank you.
I was like, "Holy generous on-ramp, Adrian. This is like the great way to do it." And I didn't feel any sense of pressure or like, "Oh, I'm behind. I should be doing more video." It was really a generous way to get to know your thoughts, but also
Mm,
where you are, the things you're thinking about. So for what it's worth, keep going. Like,
thank
don't
you.
don't feel the pressure in the game that everybody else is doing, because I don't know if those people even know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and you do.
Oh,
So
thank you.
bravo.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for this. I'm super excited to put it out in the world. And if there's anything I can do to help echo, you can hear my passion, right? I mean, short of getting on a BMX bike with a milk crate on the front and pedaling down, eh, I I'm here for it. So whatever I can do to echo the joy that you, your brother, your family, your community is putting out
Thank
in the
you.
world, I really appreciate it. And keep
Likewise.
fighting the good fight, right? This I think
Me too.
artists, filmmakers, storytellers, we are the ones that are going to change the outcome of things. So many other institutions are letting us down. We have to make our own
Yeah.
way through this. So thank you again.
Yes. Thank you, Bill, for having me.
You bet.